All right. Hello. We are now learning from a speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave 32 years ago in 1991. And it was on the very subject that we are dealing with this week, namely the reading of the Torah, the double portion this week, Tazria Matzorah. As we said before, or if you're tuning in now, as we're saying now, the this week's Torah portion is dealing with a very, very strange subject, a very bizarre subject. And the subject is one which in a way is totally not relevant now until Moshiach comes. And who knows, even when Moshiach comes, it might not be relevant, except for the way the Chassidus explains it. But we're going to see. What is it talking about? It's talking about mainly this bizarre disease, spiritual disease, called Matzorah. Tzorat. Tzorat was the spiritual disease, and the person who had it was called a Matzorah. What's the disease? A simple discoloration of the skin. Maybe the person felt sad or something, but as far as I know, at least I haven't read, there was no real other physical symptoms other than that. There was no headaches or, the weakness or loss of appetite or anything like that. No, the person was totally normal. The only thing is that he had this discoloration on his skin. A little bit of discoloration. Didn't have to be any big deal. Exactly the opposite. It's as if his whole skin turned, like, generally speaking, it was white. A white coloration that had like a hair in the middle of it. Or something in the anyway, hair. If his whole skin turned white, then he was pure. There was nothing wrong with it. But if only a certain part of his body, anyway, portion of his body became white, and it had this, there's other types also, but that's the thing of Matzorah. A small discoloration of the skin, and that person was deemed impure, and he could not go into the temple for the rest of his life until this discoloration went away. Does not exist anymore. It's translated sometimes as leprosy, but it's not so. Lepers, I think their limbs fall off. I don't know. I didn't look it up. But anyway, it's not leprosy, but it's the closest you can come to it. The person had to sit outside of the camp, and he had to be alone. That's leprosy. Okay, so that was called Tzorat. Tzorat. So that's what these two Torah portions talk about in general. Is this week's Torah portion talks about the disease, and the what do you call it? The disease, the a better word for them, the disease, the smiting. I think of what was this. Yeah, curse, whatever it is, curse. And next week is talking about how to cure it, how it is cured. You can't cure it. It has to be cured on itself, but there has to be a Kohen, a priest that goes and declares the person impure. So what are the signs of impurity and what are the signs of purity? This week talks about the signs of the impure. That's what we'll call it. This week says the impurity of Tzorat, and next week talks about the purity, how to declare it pure of Tzorat. And like I say, it wasn't really a disease. There was no like pills you could take or operation you could make or something like that. Exactly the opposite. It's forbidden to cut this discoloration away. It's forbidden to cut it away. You have to leave it there because that shows if a person is impure or not. It says in general it's caused by speaking negative things about people. Lashon hara, it's called. So it doesn't exist anymore, because if it did, I think everybody would have it. But anyway, that's what it used to be. Okay, so here we go. So this week's Torah portion talks about the impurity of blight, that's whatever word, of Tzorat. And next week talks about how it can become, how the Kohen knows that it's gone away. Good. And let's go. So this is not really relevant to us now in a, how do you say, external way. And it could be when the third temple comes and the Mashiach, builds the third temple, it also won't be relevant then. I don't know. I mean, in the simple way, I'm talking about the simple way, because everybody will be, no one will want to say bad things about each other. They won't say bad things about each for no reason. Okay. And so I don't know. That'll have to be dealt with later on. But in any case, here it is. What's this question? But no, that's what I'm saying. Yes, could be. Okay. It could be that maybe people will there'll be tzorot from what they did in previous incarnations when they're in life. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just making that up. Behemshech lamadubar umudgash biyoter bezman achron. In connection to what we spoke about and what we stressed very much in recently. Al derech hatzorech, regarding the necessity, regarding the necessity to the efforts of each and every person, each and every Jew, to do everything they can in order to bring the Mashiach in actuality now, immediately. Okay, interestingly enough, Moses, right, he was called the first Redeemer, and Mashiach will be the last Redeemer. But Moses, he came more as like a gift from the Jew, from God. He came as a gift from God. It wasn't so much because of the Jewish people longing for Moses that Moses came along. They were aware that there was going to be somebody eventually that was going to come and redeem them, that it wasn't going to be, but it was sort of forgotten by them, the Jewish people. And therefore, when Moses actually did come, so a lot of the Jewish people, they weren't ready for it. They weren't. It says that 4/5 of the Jewish people remained back in Egypt, and only 1/5 got out. So they weren't, and they were always making troubles. And we learn in the Bible they wanted to go back, and they didn't want to receive the Torah, and they didn't want to cross the Yam Suf. They didn't want to go into the land of Israel, etc. But Mashiach won't be that way. And because why? Because we're supposed to be longing for the Mashiach. Okay, why should we be longing for the Mashiach? What's the big deal? Why should we be longing for the Mashiach? The answer is that Moshiach is going to inspire everybody, like the Lubavitcher Rebbe is doing, inspire all the Jews to be crazy about revealing God here in this world. To do everything we can to make the Creator revealed in every detail of the creation. In order to do that, you have to know a little bit about what the Creator is, right? That He's not a person and He's not a big, whatever it is, an angel or something. The Creator to be revealed in this world means that every moment of your life, you have to do everything like we finished learning in order to make this world a holy place. We can learn about it, but Moshiach is going to inspire everybody to do it. He's going to make everybody crazy to do it. Jews first. So we have to do everything we can in order to reveal Moshiach. And one of the big things about revealing Moshiach is you have to be what we call a mensch. You have to be, how do you say, pleasant. Huh? You have to be pleasant. You have to be understanding. You have to what do you say, be positive, even in negative situations, even in the face of negative people. To only see the good in everything. Not easy to do. But the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he's the example. He saw good in everything. He talked good and only spoke good about people. Only spoke good. Even since it should be a menu. Since in our days, Eila, these days, mamish. In Siumu, at the end of the month of Nisan, which that's where we are now, this year, Kula Kala Kitzim, says the Rebbe, all of the projected times when Mashiach come have already finished. Ketze Yomim, Ketze Yamin, right? The end of the bad, the beginning of the good. Kapeshuto Mamish. Everything is, all the projected times have come. Bavade, so therefore, take it from me out immediately. Bo Mashiach Tzikina, the Mashiach has to come immediately. Call echad ve'echad, and each person will show with his finger, point with his finger, Bomer, Hine, Zeh, Melech HaMashiach, Ba means is coming, and it also means he already arrived. Shekavar Ba, that he already arrived. But Regesh Lifnei Regazeh, 1 second earlier. But Yesh L'Ba'er, we have to explain, Hadgashat inyan geula, pula kol echad ve'echad meIsrael, every person, and to bring this redemption in this Shabbat now. The Kol Rosh, first of all, b'inyan Torah and Torah. This is relevant to the day of Shabbos, Parshas Shavua, and then the Parsha of the week, including the Parsha which we read now, which is starting in this week. And what are we reading now? We're reading about the Tazria Metzora, which includes today and also the whole month, and also the day of accounting of the Omer. We're now on the counting of the Omer. Last night we counted 10 days. But Parsha the Shavua in this week's Parsha of the Torah, Parsha with Tazria Metzora. Especially we see the thing of the redemption. And afterwards I'll talk about this. I'll also talk about Pirkei Avot that we learn. Okay, Tazria Metzora. Just one small thing. In the days already of the first Rebbe of Chabad, there started already like what was called the Enlightenment movement. Enlightenment movement. There were a lot of Jews, especially it started in France, and it spread to Germany. Germany really accepted it. And what was the Enlightenment? Enlightenment movement was be open, be a normal person. Don't live according to some book. Live according to yourself. Be enlightened. Now I guess nowadays it's just devolved, into this woke movement, which is just like obviously destructive. But back then it wasn't so obviously destructive. Back then the whole idea is to leave the Torah. Now they're leaving the Torah. They want to, anyway, not important. So leaving the Torah, leaving laws, just being, free. Free. So one of the things about being free is you have to live with the times. You have to live with the times. What are you living according to some old book? A Bible was written, who knows how long ago, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. The earlier that it is, the longer ago it was written, the less relevant it is today. And now we have to live with the times. That was their sort of motto. Live with the times. The first Rebbe of Chabad came along and said, startlingly, that a Jew must live with the times. And everybody thought, what in the world does he mean? And he said, the times means with the Torah portion of the week. Torah portion of the week. The old joke, I'm sorry that everybody knows, that everything that's written in the newspapers is a lie. Even the date is a lie. No, that's not the joke. The joke is everything that's written in the newspapers, either it's a lie or it's not true. Even the date is a lie, because you read the date, that's today's date, and the news you see is yesterday's news. Yesterday's news. What happened yesterday? Which is not the case of the Torah. The Torah is telling you what's happening right now, really, with you. Right? The news tries to make it relevant to you. Right? There's going to be global warming. You got to watch out. And this person killed this person. That guy killed him. The police are terrible. You have to get the police. You have to this. They want to make it to come into your house that you would be afraid, that you would be whatever it is, intimidated, or something like that. But the Torah is telling you what's happening, not with someone else and trying to bring it into you. The Torah is telling you what's happening with you, and it's positive. The Torah is pure positive. Just like God is positive, right? Makes it positive. Okay. So this week's Torah portion, what's the Torah portion talking about? What's the news? That's the news. The news is the Torah. But you have to know how to read it properly. What is this week's Torah portion? What's the news? Tazria. How does it start out? Tazria means giving seed. Isha ki tazria v'yolda zachar. A woman, when she gives seed and gives birth to a male. You do it like it's known that birth, this is a metaphor. Giving birth is a metaphor for the future redemption. Like it says, Yolda Tzion at Bonea. Like it says, Tzion gave birth to her children. What is this? A prophecy in Isaiah. Birth. If you think about it, birth is a pretty amazing thing. I mean, the Rebbe wanted you should make a birthday. which birth is at first glance is no big deal, giving birth. The main thing is the child grows inside of the womb of the mother. That's the big miracle. That it comes out, it just comes out. The preparation of it, that's the big thing. But it's not so. Let's say you order a car from from the factory, you order a Ferrari or something like that. So when you're happy is when it comes out of the assembly line, not when it's being assembled. The final product. The final product, that's what was in your mind in the beginning. That's what you wanted, the finished product. Same thing with the child. The child, that's the finished product. That's a human being comes out. Well, that's the whole idea of the future redemption. That's the finished product. That's what we're waiting for. Now we're on like the production line. So that's this week's Torah portion is Isha, a woman can, when she gives birth and when she gives seed and gives birth. The whole future redemption is the end product, this beautiful end product of the final Ferrari or the human being, the baby that comes out. This is the final product. Oh, this is a happy thing. That's represented by this week's beginning of this week's Torah portion. A woman when she gives seed and gives birth. B'hatokef the Geula, this is talking about the future redemption, which is the power, the power of the future true redemption, an eternal redemption that there's not after an exile. What is exile? Exile means all the negative things, right? Depression and sickness and aggression and addictions and and all the negativity that there is in the world. That's called exile. Says we'll have a shir chadash. Then we'll see the greatness of God by means of the Moshiach. Hainu sheyol de zachar, give birth to a male. Male. This shows on the revelation of the Moshiach that the Moshiach will be from the level of zachar. Remember, we just finished learning in Lechuti Torah. Remember, that's called feminine waters and masculine waters. The masculine water, that's the blessing that comes from God. So Moshiach will be a blessing, an amazing gift, which will come totally unexpected, even though it depends totally on our work. But nevertheless, it'll come totally unexpected from God. Like it says, that's the idea of a woman giving birth. And giving birth to a male, it says. That's what it says in our Torah. Even more, it says a woman when she gives birth. This refers to all of the service of the Jewish people. Isha, a woman, Isha, a woman, that refers to the Jewish people. The Jewish people in the time of exile, that the Jewish people are compared to Zariah, of giving seed. It's the woman has the seed, right? The woman, she has the seed. The male sperm just activates the seed. The woman is like the seed in the ground. The woman is like the ground, Mother Earth, like we said. Haboim Yashrish Yaakov. She says, Al Yideh, by means of Zariah, by means of the planting. What's the planting we do? We're the Jewish people. We have to plant. What's the planting we do? Our deeds and our service of God all the time of the exile. This is the language in the Tanya. By means of this, it is made immediately, without any delay, smicha. This was a tzemach David. Tzemach David, the plant of King David. It's translated the skion, what a skion. Tzemach David means the plant of King David. That's why it's called the Geula Amitit Vashlema, by means of Moshiach, that there won't be afterward any exile. The Yolda Zachar. There'll be amazing miracles, like there were with Moses, even greater than Moses. That's Tazria and Matzorah. Next week is Parashas. The second Torah portion that we read this week, which sometimes is read in a separate week, is called Matzorah. Matzorah also hints at the future redemption, like it says in the Talmud in Sanhedrin. In Sanhedrin, page 98 over there, this whole thing about Mashiach, what Mashiach is going to do. It says, what's the name of the Mashiach? One of the names of the Mashiach is Chavira Debei Rabbi Shmuel. His name is the Tzorat of the house of Rebbe. Mitzorah of Beis Turin, right? The impure one, I guess for lack of a better translation, we'll call it the leper of the house of Rebbe. Like it says, Ochen Chalinu Hu nasa, it says, but our sickness he bore, umachavenu, on our pain, savlam, he suffered them, v'anachnu chashavnu nagoa, and we reckoned him to be a leper, muka elokim umuna, smitten by God and and tortured. But by torture. This is referring to the Moshiach. Maasi money. What's the sign? Who's going to be a Moshiach? It says, Yosef Beni Ani V'Sova Chaloin. Excuse me. It says that over the Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi wanted to see the Mashiach, and Elijah the prophet used to appear to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. He says, "You want to see Mashiach?" He's sitting over there among all the other poor people, and he's got this terrible disease. And the difference between him and everybody else is they all have one big bandage around their diseases, and he has one little bandage for each one, so he doesn't have to wait. As soon as he's announced that he has to come, so he says, but the Mashiach is going to be a person that's going to be smitten. Like it says, it says he bore our, he is sick because of our sins, and our sickness he bore. I'm sure you all are aware that this sentence is totally misinterpreted by in the world, but nevertheless, the simple meaning is that the Mashiach is a person that's going to be, tremendously suffering from the Jewish people because he wants the Jewish people to improve. And anytime a Jewish person does not, he feels the suffering. There's a saying that what is a Rebbe? A Rebbe is a person that feels the pain of every Jew. That's what a Rebbe is. Especially the 7 Rebbes of Chabad. They feel the pain of every single Jew in the world. How that's possible, I don't know, but they said, especially by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, when the Holocaust was going on and Jews were being, just butchered over there in Russia, communist Russia. But anyway, that's the thing of the Mashiach. Feels the pain of every Jew. But and even more, Ke'emshech HaKatuv, in the continuation of the pasuk. Now it's also when the Jews are healed, so then the whole world will take an example from them, and also it brings blessing into the whole world, so the world gets healed. Okay. This is also even more like the Torah says, Zotiyat Torah Metzora biyom tarato. Next week's Torah portion, the second portion of this week, says this was the law of the Metzora, of the person who is the Metzora, the impure person, on the day when he becomes purified. Some people even call the second portion, they call it by the name of Tahara. They don't call it Metzora. Metzora means that he is a leper. It means that he is Tahara. Right? The second portion is talking about how the leper becomes unleperized, right? How it becomes purified. Shemetzora hu shemo shel Mashiach. The Metzora, this the leper. I'm using this very loosely, leper, okay. Leper, this is the name of the Moshiach in the time of exile. In the time of exile, the Moshiach is called a leper because he feels the pain of every Jew. That even though on himself he is totally complete, like it says, Yaskil of the consider my servant, Yoram v'nisa v'gava ma'od. He is elevated and high and lifted up very, very much. Mashiach, it says that his whole being is above everybody else. But nevertheless, nevertheless, it pains him, the pain of the exile. But the day that he becomes cured, the day that he becomes pure again, as that's the day when it's talking about when Mashiach comes and reveals himself to reveal all the Jewish people. Okay, the Rebbe is saying now, but we have to understand something, and let's do this here. So what do we say? The first week's Torah portion, this week we're reading 2 portions, right? The first portion is obviously good, talking about a woman giving birth. That's for sure. The second portion, we might think it's not so good, because it starts off with the word Metzora. It's talking about being sick. But in any case, it talks about Metzora, this leper, when he becomes declared pure. Oh, so that's also good. Says the Rebbe, one second, we're reading these two things together, right? But the connection between these, Tazria Metzora, which a lot of years we read it together, we have to understand how they're really connected one to the other. The Lechiora, that at first glance, the name Tazria, that because of it, it's talking about giving birth, like it says, Isha Ke Tazria. Because Tazria, it says she gives birth, she gives seed. This shows on birth, like we said, the redemption. But the name of the second Torah portion we read this Shabbat, this coming Shabbat, is called Metzora. Metzora, this is the opposite of good. You have to do something in order to make the Metzora pure again. Excuse me, the law is, well, that a person that had this spiritual leprosy, which was just a sign on the skin, if the sign went away, that person remained impure. Whether a man or a woman, same thing. The person remained impure. And he remained impure forever until a Kohen came and saw it and declared that it was pure. He has to come and say it's pure. So what do you have to do? A person, the sign goes away, it doesn't mean anything yet. What do you have to do? You have to bring the Kohen, and then there's certain signs when it is that it goes away, and whatever goes away and it comes back, sometimes you have to lock the person up, put a person away for a few days. And nevertheless, the name of the second portion is called Metzora, and this indicates on the exile. How can both of them be joined together? Right? Tazria means giving birth, and Metzora means being sick. Tazria is the redemption, and Metzora is the exile. How can you join them together? And the main thing is, regarding the person, first of all, we have Tazria, which is the good thing. That's the redemption. And afterwards comes the word Metzora, which means being sick. It should be the other way around. After the woman gives birth, and that's talking about the Geula, the future redemption, which is true and complete. How can we read afterwards the next Torah portion, which is called Metzora, which means bad? The Rebbe is going to learn a very deep lesson from this. We'll see, but we're going to see it tomorrow. Alder says similarly also in each one of the two portions, Torah portions on its own. Also, the content. What's the content of the first Torah portion we read? Tazria, a woman giving birth. There it explains, right? Tazria means giving birth. We said it means the redemption, right? A woman gives birth. But if you go a few sentences in, you'll see that the whole entire first Torah portion talks about the laws of, I'm sorry, I skipped them. Oh, it talks about the laws of Nagayim, of the disease, of the leprosy, that this shows on exile. The first Torah portion starts off great as a wonderful name. Redemption, giving birth. But if you look just a couple sentences in, the whole thing talks about the sickness. What are the signs of the sickness? What you have to do it for the sick person, what you do to the sick person. But on the second Torah portion, which that starts off with a terrible name, Metzora, which means the leprous, spiritual leprosy. But if you look a little bit, that indicates on the exile. If you look a little bit, few sentences in, that talks about exactly the opposite. It talks about how to declare this Metzora pure. That's redemption. So both sentences start off opposite of what their content is. The first Torah portion, Tazria, starts off great. And then it continues in talking about terrible things, the exile. The second Torah portion starts off terrible. Metzora starts with exile. But then it continues in talking about the redemption. Kavan Sheshama Parsha, since the name of the Torah portion, of course, the Rebbe wants to learn something very unusual from this, and we'll see something very positive. Since the name of the Torah portion expresses the essence of the Torah portion, so it would be more fitting that the whole entire Torah portion talks about the Torah portion, which talks about the disease. That should be next week's, the second one, which talks about Metzora. And the one that talks about being purified, that should be called Tazria. What's going on? Why in the same Torah portion, we have two opposites. The first Tazria starts off good, but it ends up with exile. And the next week, the ones we sometimes read next to the second portion, starts off bad, Matzorah, but it ends up with redemption. Why mix it up? Why not just make one talk about only redemption and one talk about exile? Dalet Alderach says similarly in the name of the Moshiach. The Moshiach himself, he's going to redeem all the Jewish people. Why is the Moshiach called Metzorah? Why is he called? Because of a Metzorah, which means the exile. Why is the Moshiach called exile? Why? We'll understand by explaining what exactly is this idea of spiritual leprosy, and we'll see that it's not such a bad thing. Exactly the opposite. It brings out all of the bad to the surface, like we see nowadays. And that will be the beginning of the redemption, as we're going to talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do the Yom Yom.